It took artists 115 years to create 15 billion images, and AI has done that in 1.5 years. Welcome to AI Unscripted, where I meet leaders from a wide variety of industries who use AI to make an impact on our world. AI and art is a growing area of impact, and today I have Mohammed Brueckner with me. Mohammed, you wrote an exceptional article on AI and art, and that's how we ended up talking today. And I will put that into the notes for everyone else. But let me start then. Would you mind doing a quick introduction to yourself before I get to ask you lots of really great questions?
Well, sure, Kieran, and thanks for calling it exceptional. I mean, everybody out there, you'll be my guest to judge, right? So for myself, I'm Mohammed. I'm an IT professional. I really started out in the field, if you will, in the IT domain by implementing servers hands-on in the good old Java EE days with WebLogic servers and all the good stuff. So I had to really learn the bloody way, like all my technical acumen, etc., which of course I tried to stay up to date on. But that said, over the time, I went into more strategic roles, into more, to some degree as well, sales-oriented roles, etc. So I'm thinking nowadays a lot more about business than I used to do, let's say, 15 years ago or something, right? So, but overall, what never stopped was my love for technology to this very day. So this is why I combined my personal passion with regards to art, and because I used to draw comics, etc., really when I was a little bit younger, my art and technology, and I'm looking today into all the large language models, but then as well all the image generator models, etc. So DALL-E is something I wrote a book on, etc. For example, and of course I'm still looking into other things like Leonardo, Midjourney, etc. So I'm really interested now today talking with you about like what this actually really means from an art point of view, or let's say like in general how we think about creating value overall. Because you could easily extend that whole topic. Now we talk about artists, but honestly, you could easily expand this to what does it actually mean for somebody who's making a living doing coding or whatever, right?
Well, let's try and limit it to art today, otherwise the audience may shout.
Yeah.
You need to consider, look, is artificial intelligence truly art, or a sophisticated imagination or imitation of it? So look, first question, what are the core characteristics that define art in your opinion?
Yeah, well, honestly, some other people really did a much better job at this. For example, Edgar Degas, who is like a French artist, said art is not what you see, but what you make others see. I think that actually really puts it into a very good light. Or maybe Albert Einstein was not talking about art specifically, but creativity. And he said creativity is intelligence having fun. So I think if you take both of them and you put them into a bowl and you mix them up, that's pretty much like what I would actually define really as the essence of art, right? Art is really about experimentation, being open to expanding your views, your techniques. Yeah, every great artist out there, like even if you look into the classic arts, etc., had a thing for trying out unusual techniques, etc. And why did they do this? To some degree, because it was fun, for sure. But the other side of that is that they just were always looking into like bringing some kind of emotion in the audience to light using some other way. So there's always this search for looking into different ways of interacting, engaging with your audience. Because let's be honest, an artist who's not interested in any audience, I think that's a charade, right? If you're an artist, usually you are interested in getting your art across to some audience of some kind, be it small, be it big. But I don't think there's any artist out there who's just doing this for their own sake, and they like this being hidden in the shadows, etc. I don't really believe in that. So that's at least my point of view. But honestly, if you have a complete different point of view on art, that's fine. And maybe that's the beauty of talking about arts, right? And that's why we have so many different shades of arts and styles of arts. There's no single real answer to the question, what is art? And I think that's not going away with technology, be it use of tools like DALL-E or not.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, and it does come down to your definition. I'm sure the first time someone moved from, pencil to acrylics, it was revolutionary. The first time someone swung a paint pot across a canvas, it was considered, potentially awful and then beautiful. And now we have AI being used to create art. So is it art, or is it the actual artist, or the attention and the fun? I just love the creativity of using it, because I can't draw for toffee. So let's see. So what are the key arguments then for or against considering our AI generated outputs as art?
I think the main points are the same for pretty anything you would actually like to use AI on, which is pro. Like if you really want to use these large language models, or more these image generating models in this case, for the sake of getting some inspiration, helping you with your ideas, conceptualizing things you have in your head, help you to convey some message you have got going and that you want to push out to the masses. That's where like using AI is a really good idea, because it's a fantastic assistant. It's like a door opener. You can iterate very quickly. You can try out different styles, etc. What you should be really careful about is just using it for its own sake. Like just have it do something, and then declare it, that's my work and I'm done. I mean, you could do that, but first of all, we know that these models have a very unique way of looking at things. I mean, some say they're statistical parrots, right, in the end. So there's definitely some truth to that. So if you really intend to create something outstanding, you just let Midjourney do its thing, or DALL-E, let's do its thing. The chances of really creating something outstanding that has some artistic, something artistic to it, I think are very slim, and that shouldn't be really your standard, right? I mean, after all, it's still all about humans. I guess the reason why you're interested in creating interesting pictures, collage, maybe videos, of course, nowadays as well, is because you want to convey something. And why would you just give this completely out of hands, right? And just leave it entirely to a mix of ChatGPT and Midjourney or something like this, and just sit back and see what it does. You could do that, but honestly, the big question for me would then be really, what is the artistic touch there, right? So this is where I would draw the line. At least think about it, whether that's really fun to do it after all, right? I mean, why are you actually really putting some time into it? Unless it has really some commercial side to it. You just want to create some cover images for something, and you don't really care about it. But then I wouldn't call this an artistic piece of work, but that would be more like strictly commercial. And yeah, I wouldn't really put this into the same bucket, really.
I suppose, again, we could dig into what's art or not, but maybe that's a photocopy of something. Unless it creates a unique image every time, then, there's so many questions. But can imitation ever truly be considered originality in art? Because all of the great artists had disciples. All of the great artists had people who copied their genre, or copied their art to create genre. So then, is imitation originality, or can there only ever be one of one thing, one artist ever?
Yeah, okay. And for this, I have another quote, if you don't mind. So Voltaire once said, originality is nothing but judicious imitation, right? So you could say it like that. And that is really like something we have to face always, like in the realms of art, right? So will you ever create something that is truly unique and ground-shattering? Maybe not to the degree you think it is, right? Because you will always be inspired by others. And honestly, we're all standing on the shoulders of others. It starts like when we actually go to school, etc. So the way we're wired is actually like standing on the shoulders of giants, yeah, whoever those giants might be. So I would say we have to look a little bit broader when we think about what is actually original, right, in that sense. And it comes down to style, I guess. It comes down to back to what is actually the message you want to convey, coming back to this. I mean, by the way, another example of misunderstood types of art, and where you could actually argue about originality as well, is photography, right? Like You know, when actually people started to publish photos as a form of art, what was it actually by the time? Well, it was the kind of disrespected art, right? The true artists would actually really look down on it and would say, yeah, how is this original? I mean, it is just a copy of like what you're seeing with your eyes and just putting it on a piece of paper. And what's so special about that? And what is artistic about that? And I think the same question we're now faced, like with people who do some outstanding stuff with the help of tools like Midjourney, etc. Somebody will jump in and say, "Hey, well, I mean, yeah, it looks nice, but honestly, it's it's just AI generated. It's not really original as well." So I think it's something we'll grow out of. I think like just 10 years by now, or maybe less, we'll look back at these times and really think, well, okay, that was really like the times when photography was introduced back then, and the incumbent League of Artists looked down on it, etc., and played it down, and this is probably how we will feel about all this sentiment, right? So,
well, let's see. Interestingly, you go back to what is true originality, because what are we as people? We're often prompt engineered by the things that have come before us. So how does AI as a tool differ then from what we might call traditional artist tools like paintbrushes or cameras, now that camera work is considered art?
Well, first of all, I mean, the way we interact with it is, of course, completely different, right? So the whole notion of I can't just express like my thoughts, and the machine, if you will, actually picks this up and gives me an interpretation of it, and then I can actually go into an exchange and tell it, no, that wasn't quite what I was thinking of. Add this, do that, etc. That is not exactly like how we actually dealt with art in the past. I mean, there was definitely like this notion of trial and error for sure. That is it's something really important if you do art, to try something, figure out it doesn't work, I have to completely redo it. Only that the number of iterations you can do is of course much higher, right? So you could actually try very different styles. You could actually even create realistically looking videos, and you could actually then decide, okay, that's like the kind of style I like, that's not the kind of style I like. The big issue with this, or like the challenge with this, is of course, at least until we really have like some neural connections or something like this, you can of course only get like an interpretation of what you pass on to the machine, right? So and what you actually put into words that might or might not entirely really reflect what you have in mind. And likewise, the machine will interpret it, and maybe the way you have it in mind, or maybe not. And then it can get really tedious, because if you really want something to happen in a very specific way, well, if you start drawing, etc., you can. It's easy, right? You can actually outline the frames, etc., the perspective yourself. But in this case, you're really dependent on the machine. But we're getting there. I think we're getting more ways to actually, and that's what I see for the future, more ways to tell, like something like Midjourney, for example, how you actually want things to play out, like perspective, for example, composition, etc., beyond just expressing it, putting it into words. But putting this into words, that alone is pretty powerful, and that's something we never had really in the past. So it is quite different. It is quite exciting, and I'm pretty sure there's much more to come.
Yeah, possibly much cheaper as well. If I remember my horrid attempts, and then I was ripping up pages as a student and going, oh my goodness, look how much paint I've actually used and wasted. Now I've made a tremendous mistake. And even the artist back in the day overwrote by painting and scrubbing things out. A question then, could the widespread use of AI art potentially devalue human artists and their work? Or could AI actually contribute to greater accessibility and greater inclusivity in the art world?
I believe more on the latter, that this is like the great equalizer in terms of everybody gets access to the capabilities of like putting like your thoughts and what you want to express into imagery. So in that sense, I would say that, of course, what you have to admit, if if like your life depends on doing like very straightforward basic whatever caricatures or some basic drawings, book illustrations, etc., etc. I mean, there is definitely like the danger of being, you know, outdone by these kind of tools who actually could do something like that in an infinite number of iterations, infinite number of styles for almost nothing. And as you said, right, prices are going down because in general, LLMs and all these image generating models, they have this in common. They are like the most deprecating assets there are worldwide, right? So you can actually count on the fact that these tools will all get cheaper over time. So I think it's similar to the question of what role does AI play for people who code. I think if the work you do has nothing, let's say, to it that has like a very specific special touch to it, right? Be it style, be it like how your execution, etc. Then I could imagine that besides democratizing these capabilities, there will be as well some issues for those who cannot, use the AI, those capabilities for themselves and stick to like the old ways of illustrating in a very basic fashion, etc. Because then it's a matter of, the numbers don't really work in your favor in that case, right? So for some, it will be an issue. I mean, we cannot really dance around that, right? For sure.
Yeah, interesting, because again, it's, the affordability, I agree, it's getting really cheap, which could result in very cheap art. Again, we'll not go into the question what is or isn't art. The ability to create, and we focus on images, but I'm thinking of video, and I'm thinking of sound, and I'm thinking of that, picture. The opportunities are endless. But what questions or challenges do you anticipate emerging as AI art becomes more prevalent with all of us creating?
Well, yeah, the ones that are actively being discussed now, that we're like in a voting season in the United States, for example, like what is real, what is not, right? So how can you actually really keep one from the other? And the next question is then, of course, in terms of accountability and in terms of ownership, how can you actually be certain that like the work of others isn't being exploited by being ripped off to some degree by these models, right? And those are the tough questions we all have to face, right? So it's definitely something that you have to take seriously, and those are exactly like the ethical considerations, right, that we all have to bear in mind when we talk about the current state of things and the future state, which is gonna be probably unrecognizable from now. So I'm pretty sure like all these issues we already have in terms of like deciding whether a picture is real or not, that's going to be exponentially more difficult in a couple of years' time with more powerful models, etc. So, and then we have the whole issue that's the thing, right? Is it an issue? Is it like something to be excited about? But videos being like photorealistic, like it's great, maybe like for the whole movie industry, it might open some new doors, etc. But it definitely opens the doors for misinformation. It definitely it will be a big challenge across all social media, maybe even beyond social media, right? In terms of, are we looking at something that's real or not, right? So I think those are the most pressing things we have to look into.
Yeah, it's a big question, isn't it? Because if you take the movies, the movie industry has created things that haven't been real for years, even before AI art was put into place. Now, as you say, the benefits are there. If I'm an actor, actress, or other, I can now speak in Italian, German, French. You can take 20, 50 years off my age. You can make me appear in all sorts of movies, and I don't even have to be there, and I can earn money. You can suddenly create, model replicas. There's a lady in the UK, a famous model, whose actual AI model, which is a photo realistic version of her, is earning more money than her. I'm seeing AI influencers earning their creators lots of money. I'm seeing magazine images, videos, music, all this been created. It's so exciting. But as you say, when you get into the area of deep fake, or when you get into AI, but you're not told, but remember, we've not been told lots of things for years, then that's where potentially is the negative side of this. And the more education, the better, the more aware we are, I think the better we can make more informed decisions. So final question, what's your vision for the future of art in a world increasingly shaped by AI?
I think, first of all, I would see a world that we are actually transcending to, where it becomes pretty much like the norm that we have these tools that support our daily work, that we actually use as agents, as assistants, as something that actually helps us in our productivity, and as well, of course, in our creative process. And that is, and we stop then talking about like some I don't know, we should actually cut down on this kind of things, or we need some detectors. Is there some AI involved? And if so, then please censor it. I think all of these discussions will go away, need to go away, simply because those tools will not go away. And I think the potential is just way too big. And overall, I think that if you ask for my vision, I would say my vision is that technology and art are gonna merge even more than they did in the past. I mean, of course, we had like this whole pull towards digital art in terms of using Photoshop and all these other tools, etc. But I think that's going to be more, even stronger than ever. And it's going to be useful as an artist to be as well a tech savvy, I guess. And the other way around, if you're tech savvy, you might actually somehow at some point really stumble into this whole world of art and suddenly find out that this explores some completely different sides of yourself. So all in all, I'm really excited about that, and I think there's plenty to come. And aside from all the challenges, I'm pretty I'm sure that the benefits outweigh like the downsides by far. So we should be very optimistic about it. Look forward to it. Embrace what's happening. Stay current. Stay informed, and yeah, of course, as you said, right, education is definitely a big piece of that.
So look, thank you so much today, Mohammed. What you consider art for me is a very personal thing, whether you're using a paintbrush, your finger, or AI to create something that brings you joy and happiness. That tends to be all that matters to me. But I do get, in a commercial sense, why we do need to be more educated and informed around what is or isn't AI, what is or isn't ethical AI and art, or deepfakes or everything else. Audience, I hope you enjoyed it today. Until next time, thank you for listening in and watching AI Unscripted.